Good evening, and thank you so much to all of you for being here. I am definitely used to giving speeches, but this one is very unusual for me. So if I don't perform as well as usual, you'll bear with me. It's just because about how touched I am. Before I start, I want to start with the people I want to thank, because by the time I'm done, I may completely forget, because I wanted to take a few seconds for all of us to remember Professor George Aite, my beloved professor. He was one of my intellectual fathers. And I also wanted to thank Michael Strong. He's here, my beloved husband. Thank you for everything, Michael. So with that, I want to just share with you my story. I never planned to do what I'm doing today. The best way you can understand me is to know that I am a haunted person. I'm truly haunted. And I will explain to you why I'm haunted. You see, I was born in Senegal, the west coast of Africa. And right around age 2, my parents made the decision that so many African parents before them have made, and so many African parents since them continue to make. Imagine, you have a 2-year-old, your child or your grandchild, and the very best you can do for this child is to leave them behind. Not because you're the worst parent, but because you're the best parent. Why did my parents have to leave me behind? Because they had to go away to provide for a better life for me. They had figured out that there is no way in the world they could give me the type of life that they were able to give me if they stayed back home. And so all it was the lack of jobs back home. So my parents became economic migrants, you know? And so they left me, and then some 5 years later, after their immigration journey has worked, they came back for me. And this time, they took me with them, but it meant that I had to leave my beloved grandma behind. So once more, separation of the worst kind you can do to a child. Imagine your grandchild is going away, and you don't know when and if you'll ever see her again. In my case, my grandma did pass away, and I could not be there for her funeral. This is the life of migrants. People are born behind you, they die behind you, they're baptized behind you, life happens behind you, and all you do is in this foreign country, you work and you send money back home. But yet, it was the very best. My parents did the best. And so, my parents, moved to, they were in Germany by the time they called for me to be back with them. And when I arrived in Germany, let me tell you what little 7-year-old Magatte saw around. She looked around, and all she could think about was, how come they have this and we don't? And all I was talking about was, back home, between the moment my grandma decided that I would take my shower, some 45 minutes to an hour would go by before I could take that shower. Not because I was fooling around, playing one more game. No. It's just because grandma had to get she had to get a stove of coal going, get a pot of water on it, wait for it to boil, then we put it into a bigger bucket, mix it with some cold water for safer temperature for me, and somebody who is stronger than grandma had to drag it to the shower area, and there, some 45 minutes to an hour later, I could finally proceed with my shower with a tiny little plastic, cup, taking from a big tub to myself. That's what taking a shower meant. And here in Germany, mom is like, Magatte, time for your shower. I'm like, where is the bucket of water? Where is the stove with all the fumes, like you're inhaling all of these bad fumes because all we had was coal. Where is all of that? I am not getting butt naked in this cold weather. Where is it? And she's like, come on, you silly, just jump on. So I jump in the shower, I turn the knobs, and the water is coming down at the temperature that I want, at the pressure that I want, and I'm just like, what type of juju is this? It was really that. And then it was the paved roads. Back home, all of these dusty roads and these grocery stores full of all types of apples and breads. And I was just like, oh my God, what is this? And the question was for me, how come they have this and we don't? It became the defining question of my life, and I had to find out what it was. Eventually, the question became, how come some countries like mine are poor while others are rich? And eventually, kept on with my life. We moved away from Germany to France. After business school in France, I decided that France would be too small for my ambition, so I moved to the United States. To live my American dream, right? Because the Golden Gate Bridge movies had sold me America as the destination that I needed to go to. So I came to America, and I have to say, America delivered beyond my wildest dreams. And thank you, America. I am a proud American today. Thank you for everything. Thank you for everything. For everything. So after business school, I came to the US, and there I was a headhunter in finance at first, and eventually I got the bug. Living in Silicon Valley, I got the bug of entrepreneurship, this magic of creating something out of nothing. And the first time I started my first company, we had a sister company in Senegal, another one in the US. And then I started to see something. I saw something really troubling. What did I see? A huge gap in terms of the ease of doing business. I mean, consider this. Back home, let's start with the US, it's going to be easier. In the US, less than 20 minutes, depending on how fast you type or write, to set up your LLC. Cost you a couple $100. You open your bank account with almost no money, and then you hire at will. Compare that to Senegal. By that time, when we did that the first time, it took almost 2 years to legally register the business. In order to hire anybody or fire anybody, I had to have the authorization of the government officials, right? And it was like that about everything, the permits, and it was just like, whoa, what's going on here? I thought it was normal. Because you see, if you're so poor, that's why everything is so cumbersome. And conversely, these other countries, they're rich, that's why everything is so easy. Just come to think, the moment you say that, you come to think, wait a second, you're poor because you don't have enough money. Not enough money because you don't have a source of income. A source of income for most of us is a job. Where do jobs come from? The private sector. What does the private sector need? An enabling business environment. Oh, but wait, you just told me that these countries are the ones where it's the worst to start and run a business. Wow. There, at last, I had my answer. As I was being an entrepreneur, 1 foot in Africa, 1 foot here. Africa, my continent, is the poorest region in the world today because it happens to be the most over-regulated region in the world. That was it, and it made so much sense. And eventually, the other thing that I learned too, because you see, these things are hidden for most people. Laws, regulations, they're hidden. People don't know that they rule all of this. And so eventually, I also learned another one, that nations that have a low economic freedom usually will be poor. But I also learned that nations that are low consumers of energy are also poor. So here I am coming up with my formula for human flourishing. What I learned back then is, it is definitely true that people are the ultimate resource, as Julian Simon had told us. They are. We humans are the ultimate resource. But in order for us to make the most of being the ultimate resource, we need, in my mind, 2 things. You give us those 2 things, step out of the way, we'll do the rest. One is economic freedom, and the other one is access to affordable, reliable, abundant energy sources. You give me those 2, I'm good to go. I'm good to go. And let me tell you one more thing. A few years ago, after I started my 3rd business, again, sister company in Senegal, sister company here, I proceeded to sit down with my team. And I wanted to explain to my team why I'm doing what I'm doing. And in my team, there's this young woman, her name is Yahara. She was 26 years old back then, never had a job, as so many people in the village where we're working. And her only plan in life was to wait for her husband to provide for her. And as I shared with Yahara, this very condensed story that I shared with you, but I walked her through everything. And you want to know the whole story? My book is given to all of you. It's called The Heart of a Cheetah, in reference to my professor, Ayite. And Yahara, I explained everything to my team. And so I saw this woman, she started crying. And I said, why are you crying? She said, Magatte, I'm crying because my whole life, seeing myself, these African women, people like us, always in magazines, in movies, in billboards, everywhere, all the time, we are represented as these pathetic human beings that the rest of the world has to come to the rescue of. They bring us shoes, they bring us food, they bring us medicine, they bring us everything. So I have to tell you that I have come to believe that perhaps us Africans in the end must be inferior. So she was not thinking of herself as the ultimate resource, as Dr. Simon said we were. She was seeing herself in another way. And then she said, but that's not why I'm crying. And I said, then why are you crying? And then you had to see her. When she said that, this woman, I've never seen her look me in the eye straight. She was always looking down, always shoulders down, look this. And when she proceeded to respond to my question, she head straight up like this, shoulders, back and down. I've never seen such pride, such dignity in a human being. And she looked me straight in the eyes. I think that's the first time she ever looked me straight in the eyes. And she said, but now I know that it is not true. I know that us Africans are not inferior. Thank you very much, Alice.